In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy. And this is episode number 75, X's and O's.
Exits. I want to sing it so bad. Can I tell you a funny fact about this song?
Can I first describe what you were just doing there?
Oh,
you were
my
like
head.
bobbing your head and you had some shoulder movements.
Yeah.
And, like nobody can see you except me. So I
No.
just wanted to convey that to our listeners.
No, yeah. So
okay.
it's sung by Ellie King. And first of all, I just want to point out my personal connection to the song is that it's one of Mason's favorites. For
Is
some
it
reason.
really?
Yeah. He insists that it's on his playlist. He loves it.
That's-
Sings it all the time.
That little boy continues to delight and amaze.
I know. Such
Yeah.
a weird. And then I did not realize that she is Rob Schneider's daughter.
What?
Yes. Isn't that insane? Rob Schneider's daughter.
SNL Rob Schneider
Schneider.
from the 90s. Wow.
Also, so I picked it this week,
Okay.
X's and O's,
Yes.
because we're talking about either exes that won't stay out of your lives or women flipping the script,
You bet.
women being in control. And I love this song because she admittedly, when she wrote the song, says it's about exes. Like those are actual exes that are in the song, which is wonderful. But if you look it up online, any news about it, and you read the comments, it's everything you need to see illustrated about society.
Really?
It's a
Like
whole
how
bunch
so?
of men saying things like, obviously she hates men. I don't even know why anyone likes this song. It's very problematic.
Yet you took to the interwebs, sir, and you had to state your case. I bet there's plenty of women out there that have jettisoned you with delight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To which she has just replied like, yeah, I mean, I wrote a song about my exes and I made a ton of money. And so there it is.
That's fantastic.
It's so good.
I didn't remember the song, so I had to look up the lyrics. And yeah, as I was reading them, I'm like, there's a lot to work with here.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
And it just stays in your head.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Can we also just take a moment to acknowledge like one of the biggest, flipping the gender script that happened this week?
Yeah,
We got a new vice president-elect.
we sure do.
And man, it makes me happy.
Whew.
It gives me chills.
It does. I don't want to talk about it too much because I might cry again.
I know. And I like you and I have talked about, we spent probably a couple hours today debriefing
Yes.
and it still doesn't feel quite real.
No, it doesn't.
And I'm afraid by saying it in our podcast, we've jinxed it.
I know. I thought about that.
Yeah.
But I think we're far enough along now
I
that
sure
no
hope
one
so.
wants to go backwards.
I sure hope so.
I mean, I hope.
Yeah.
I really, really hope. And the good news is that this means that we get Jim Carrey and Maya Rudolph on Saturday Night
Damn,
Live
we
for
do.
many, many years to come.
I just want to hear Maya Rudolph saying funt again and again.
right?
I'm a cool ant, a fun ant, a funt.
I also think that it's important that we talk about another thing that happened this week.
Oh,
And that is, we got to see the cover of your book.
Oh, I was like, where are we going with this? Like, what else happened this week?
I gotta remember.
This week has felt so long.
It has.
That felt like a year ago.
No, if you didn't notice it on our social media, you should go back and check it out. But Amy's book that's coming out in the fall of 2021 has a cover.
Yes, it does.
Which is kind of like, a big deal.
Yeah, and our friend Heath, who appeared on this podcast a couple episodes ago, he wrote me and he said, I can't wait to find out why there's a wolf with heels and a shovel in her hand, but I'll wait until the book comes out. And I said, that's a good friend.
Yeah, that is a good friend. He noticed all the details.
All the details.
The cover is amazing. Can we just say that?
It's if you have not seen it, we've posted it on our social, or you can go to my website. I'm revealing my last name. My full name, AmyLeeLillard.com.
And you can subscribe, and then you'll get all the news.
You sure can.
About the book and when other writings are appearing.
Yes.
And I can say, as a personal friend, that I've read a few things that are in there, and it's worth it. So we'll let you know when the pre-order starts. It's not yet. We just got the cover, but
there's going to be a lot of stuff over the next year, and Broads and Books listeners will get lots of opportunities for giveaways and all sorts of stuff. So thank you for being listeners. And Erin, thank you, because not only did you be a good friend and support me, you also sent me a care package. I opened up a big old Target box on Tuesday or Wednesday to find several Reese's Pieces packages, an industrial size peanut butter pretzel.
It was so big.
It was so big. Multiple bags of Monster Trail mix and a couple cups with covers, because Ziggy the Podcat keeps overturning my water.
Yes. And I couldn't think of anything worse than having a fresh, delicious coffee all over your keyboard.
Exactly.
That's the worst.
It is the worst.
Especially when you're in the middle of edits or trying to get something important done.
It's true.
So
man, this was kind of a good week. Have we said that in 2020?
I'm scared too.
I'm scared too as well. Huh. Maybe we're forgetting something.
I think maybe what we should look at it as is like, it's still a dumpster fire.
Yes, it is.
We're just like, we found a comfortable spot in the corner of the dumpster where the fire isn't now singeing our eyebrows. It still is threatening.
Yes.
Like we haven't gotten out. We're a raccoon.
Right.
We're caught in the dumpster. It's not going anywhere. But it's not as engulfing as it was.
Yeah.
We've managed to get... I'm not saying it's not going to get out of control again.
No, but we can see a little bit of bright sky above us.
Yes, it's been open. They dumped it. We didn't fall out, but it's open now. So we see a way out.
Yeah.
We see
so
it.
that if you're feeling that too,
it.
listeners, that's where we're at.
That is where we're at. So obviously this week we're going to be talking about some exes.
Yeah,
we're going to
we
be
are.
talking about women taking control, which
Sure
just
are.
feels so great.
So great.
Amy, do you think that men, this seems really pertinent right now, do you think men or women take rejection better? And do you think that lines up with what society wants us to believe?
It's almost like there's a really public case of this going on right now.
Yeah, I was trying to think if we have a good example.
Yeah, it's very illustrative of what I was going to say, which is that men do not take rejection well.
No.
And I'm speaking mostly about heterosexual men in relationships with women. I don't think that they can handle rejection very well, and I have a few pieces of evidence for this.
Oh, good.
Number one, shootings. How many mass... How many mass shootings have we found some asshole is blaming, like, she broke my heart, so I had to go kill everyone in her office.
Or my mother was crazy.
Exactly.
That one's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Evidence number two, revenge porn. We have talked about that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We read that book, Nobody's Victim, by
That's
Carrie
true.
Goldberg. There is an epidemic of men, once they get rejected, sharing very, very private material of their former ladies with the world, just to really, F them over. And my third one is, this is getting dark, but, domestic abuse and domestic deaths.
Yeah.
It's often a case of, men not taking rejection very well. I think generally, though, obviously those are the big,
right. Yeah.
very drastic cases of that. But I think that, men have often not, heterosexual men have not often been taught that women have agency, that we have a right to our choices, to our decisions, that we have lives that are outside of their purview. And so I don't think that, they've been taught to take rejection, especially from women, very well. And even the smaller cases, just a harassing text or a little bit of meanness, a little bit of digging.
Yes.
That's every single relationship that I can think of.
Do you think that lines up with what society wants people to believe about rejection?
Isn't that great? Yeah, I think that what we're painted is, if we don't take rejection very well, we're the crazy bitches. But the men that are acting like toddlers, it's all fine. That's normal.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Same. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Yeah, I think that society wants us to believe that women are the crazy emotional ones, but there's a lot of evidence to the contrary.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think? Like, there's a popular saying, right? That hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. What do you think about that? Do you think it's accurate?
No, I've never liked that phrase because I think if you're expecting a flower and you get a cactus, you're going to have to find a reason that doesn't work. And the easiest thing to do is to say, well, I pissed her off, so this is how crazy she got. No, that's not the case. I can have feelings about a lot of things, and it doesn't even mean I've been wronged. It means I might have a strong opinion, or maybe I am wronged, but that doesn't mean, A, that I'm going to be the craziest person you've ever met, but it also doesn't mean I'm not going to be.
No.
I reserve the right to react in every situation.
You sure do.
And I would disagree and say that there's layers of hell that women can't even touch compared to men. So,
Right?
Yeah.
Also, I really like that new saying that you said, that if you're expecting a flower and you get a cactus, you
You got to find a reason why.
yeah, find a reason why.
And it's not going to be your own fault.
Is that the title of your autobiography? Like, you're expecting a flower, you got a cactus.
Yes, it is. For sure. You're expecting a flower and you get a cactus.
Erin's story.
You've met me.
That also could be a Real Housewives tagline, couldn't it?
Yeah. That could be. I like that. If you were going to go back in time, so a lot of this we're talking about kind of has to do with breaking up, it seems like. That's when emotions seem to get the highest, the height.
Yeah.
If you were going to go back in time to a breakup or bad relationship moment, what would you do differently?
Well, we've gone on record with the fact, with especially smaller relationships, I ghost. I just get the hell out. And I stand by that decision.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah. With the bigger relationships, the longer lasting relationships, I do wish that I could go back and say my piece a little bit, because in many cases I've sacrificed the desire and the need to just get out.
Right.
Doing that instead of saying my piece. But I also know that I get so flustered that I would need to, if I go back in time and have my say my piece, which I will find a way to do, I will bring a nicely typed letter and I will read from that letter so that I get to say everything I want.
Yes.
And to let them know how they suck.
Yes.
I also admit how I suck, but also how you mostly suck.
Yeah, I don't think that is the time for you. If you can admit that to yourself and move on in other relationships and make it better, that's fine. That's not the time.
This is the time to say why you suck.
Yes. And I will tell you that Zach, one of my children, shares your philosophy of ghosting. And his is that he feels like, to quote him, ghosting requires a lot more patience, but it cuts a lot deeper.
Ooh. Yeah.
And I'm like, Zach's
my man.
He's mainly referring to like if someone's trying to get at you, like you're getting
Absolutely.
Texas. You're getting Texas.
You're getting the state of Texas?
What was that? You're getting texts.
Texts
Sent
from
to
Texas?
You. Yeah, texts from Texas. And you're like, I don't want any of this, malarkey.
I don't like how you're handling things, Texas.
Yeah, then you just ghost it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Value.
There is value, especially if you've got an unreasonable person on your hands, which is why, honestly, for many reasons, I did ghost, because I'm like, there's nothing I can say here that's going to make this better.
Most of the time, those people aren't going to listen to what you have to say anyway, and they're not going to agree with you. So it's like, why would I waste my time?
No. And by that point, even after just a first date or something, I get a real read on someone. I'm like, ooh, they're not going to take rejection well. We're going to ghost this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good decision, I think.
This started from a song. So, Erin, if someone were to write a song about you, would you be upset?
No. I don't think I would. Number one, I would just not tell anyone. I mean, unless they outed me.
Say your full name.
Unless they outed me. But I guess I just feel like it's all fair game. Like, I'm going to talk about you. So I guess if you have the ability to make a bunch of money off me, congratulations. Like, I can't really be mad at you. I can't be mad. I mean, I guess the hate the player, don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, I can't be
but
mad.
It's true,
that you
because then think about, if you're going to write about something like that, or you're going to, it's all fair game. Yeah.
Because what I'm doing at the end of that relationship is I'm taking part of you And I'm thinking about that, and I'm making myself better for the next person. So in a way, I'm using you too, just in a productive.
But you're not making money.
I mean, sorry, even if it's bad, somebody wrote a song about me, so
that means you had some impact.
And also, why are you still thinking about me?
Why are you so obsessed with
I
me?
mean, you got some things to work out. I didn't even know that song was about me because I'm not tracking you. Clearly, you are. Glad I blocked you.
Yeah. Ugh.
Things got weird.
Relationships. The worst. Not all relationships.
No.
You know, another thing we should note is that we celebrated our 4-year friendversary. Speaking of good relationships, that was also this week.
Yes.
Holy shit.
That's
this
crazy.
has been a week.
This has been a week.
And we remembered that because 4 years ago we met at the writers' conference that we've talked about right before the 2016 election.
We sure did.
Yeah.
And we shared a common interest of hating people that can't listen.
Exactly. And people that insist on eating chips during a presentation.
It's the weirdest choice.
The weirdest choice.
One of the weirdest choices.
So weird. Just still don't get it.
No. It's
But
weirder than the person who always sat next to me in a college lecture and ate apple cinnamon Cheerios out of a box. And I mean daily. That was
not
still
right.
weirder.
That's not right.
No. It's just it takes 2 seconds. If you didn't think about it before you got the chips and you sat down and you reached in, you would be like, oh, that was a bad decision because I can't be crinkling and eating these chips. I'll wait.
No, that was not what the people that brought us together thought of.
No. I love that our friendship is based on a bag of chips.
I always take the idea like it's based on a mutual just disgust of other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it really is. That's true. Kindred spirit.
Well, like you said, we're talking about exes. We're talking about women flipping the gender script, often in
Flipping it.
those situations.
Like flipping a table in Real Housewives, just over.
Flipping that table. So, fiction pick.
Ooh.
I've got a book called Feast Your Eyes by Mila Goldberg, and this is from 2019. And the first thing to note about this book is the format. It's so unique and cool. It's framed as sort of a career retrospective of a photographer. And like one of those catalogs that you might get from visiting that art center or that museum and reading almost sort of an oral history of this. So we have descriptions of photos that, don't exist, but they feel very real. And we've got notes that sort of tell the story of the photographer, all from the perspective of the photographer's daughter.
Wow.
And she has some very conflicted feelings about her mother. So that's the setup for this. So the photographer herself, her name is Lillian Preston, who is a young girl in the 1950s. She discovers she has a passion for photography. And she's always sort of felt different from other people. And after high school, she, her parents are pushing her to go to college, find her husband. And she's like, no, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to find my path. I'm going to take photos. And she does just that. And along the way, she has a brief sexual relationship and has a daughter, Samantha. And when Samantha is young, Lillian takes photos of her in a very innocent way, but she's half clothed. And because this is the time frame that it is, when these photos are exhibited in a small gallery, Lillian, the photographer, is arrested for obscenity. From then on, she is known as that pervert mom who posted, photos of her half-clothed daughter. And Samantha, as the young girl, is known for all the things she doesn't want to be. Yeah. So it's a fantastic story. It goes from there. It details, their relationship over time, how they become estranged, what happens to Lillian, all that kind of stuff. I chose it for this theme, though, because I think Lillian, she's just doing what a guy would do without judgment. She is driven by her passion, even when it keeps them kind of poor. Like she's not making a lot of money from this. And especially when she is stigmatized by the work that she's doing, she prioritizes her work above everything else. She's also, relationship wise, she's a real love him or leave him type. She likes to ghost. I got behind that.
Yeah.
But because this is 1950s, 1960s America, and women are supposed to be wives and mothers above anything else, she is targeted so much more viciously because of that. And her daughter has to grapple with that as she grows up. So like I said, I love the format. It's so cool, and it gives sort of inside perspective on what her mother was doing and thinking in key photos, but also the impact of that over time. I love that it's describing non-existent photos, but you just get it. Like you can picture it. I know, it's so incredible. It also includes letters and journals from Lillian herself. And then you get to see Samantha's reactions to these. I I love the theme. I love the structure. I love that there's sort of punk element because there's a late 1970s punk performer who remembers these photos of Samantha and names her band after them and then connects with Samantha to make this catalog book
Oh,
thing.
wow.
Yeah. I think it's a really great story about the ways that we're judged differently, how hard it can be to overcome, why we must do it. And yeah, it's just it's an incredible read that there's so many times within it I want to look up the photos that are being talked about, and they're not real.
They're not real, yeah.
And that's just an incredible experience. I remember you saying that about Daisy Jones and the Six, like wanting
Yeah.
to look up the music
Yes.
that is being written about. And
Yeah.
that's how well she writes about this and how fully she
Amazing.
creates that world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Even when you were describing it for a minute, I was like, oh no, we're on our fiction page.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I was thinking, oh, I want to see.
Exactly.
That's what a cool idea, though.
Such
a cool
a cool
concept
idea.
for a book.
Yeah.
You know, I love out of the box stuff like that.
So great.
Especially when it's done successfully. Well, I brought The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. This was published in 2003. There was a movie that was based on it later on with Glenn Close that she won some awards for.
Oh.
But this story is the story of Joan and Joseph. And this story will probably be familiar to lots of people in long-term relationships, particularly ones that started in the 1950s. So Joseph is a very accomplished and esteemed writer. And Joan, when they met, younger than him, and she put her whole career and dreams on hold. She was also is a very, very good writer, but she gave up everything to support him, for them to have a family, for them to move, for him to be able to achieve all of these things. So the book is telling the story of this marriage that's set against the backdrop of a large literary award that they're traveling to. He's been nominated. They kind of both know that he's not going to win, but they have to travel there. So they're going on this trip, but in the backdrop, we're seeing their whole relationship play out because Joan's decided she's done. She's trying to find the time to leave him. So, and by going backwards, we're finding out all the reasons why, about all the ways she's been sort of disrespected by society because she took this lesser role, disrespected by him, all the things she's put up with. But then she didn't want to leave because she felt like, what does that mean for the sacrifice I made for so long? If I leave, what was it for?
What was it all for? Ugh.
So there's a criticism that came out with this book. And I'm purposely not going to say much more because there's some twists in there and some stuff that really you need to read and is very impactful, I think. And to be honest with you, we know this story, right?
For sure.
And
story as old as time.
Yes, absolutely. And so I picked it for this partially because I think that Joan at the end has decided to flip the script and take control. She's done. Like, this isn't working for me anymore. And that's kind of unheard of and definitely unheard of between the two of them. I like the fact, too, that it's an example of a woman taking back some power or at least not settling for having none anymore. You know, she wants a voice. She wants to have some of her own agency. And stepping out from his shadow means she gets to live as a full person. But also there's going to be the fact that she's always tied to him. So it's kind of an ex that never leaves type thing. When this book came out, there was some criticism that the characters were like overdone. Like Joan's almost too submissive and Joseph is too far the other way. Like we're like the author is trying to force us to not like him. And honestly, I strongly disagree. I think that they're entirely believable depending on the place that you come from.
Okay.
If you understand that this is a common thing that happens or you have examples, I think you can get there rather easily. And I don't think it's a good example of talking about likable characters again. I don't think that everything is so black and white. Like it's all he's terrible, it's all she's great, or vice versa. It's just a story of a marriage and what decisions happened in that marriage, which anyone that's been in a long-term relationship knows there are decisions that someone from the outside would say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But they're not in it. They don't know. This passage, though, I think just sums up the whole crux of this book. Everyone knows how women soldier on, how women dream up blueprints, recipes, ideas for a better world, and then sometimes lose them on the way to the crib in the middle of the night, on the way to the Stop and Shop or the bath. They lose them on the way to greasing the path on which their husband and children will ride serenely through life.
Holy shit.
I mean, read the book
That's
just for that
it.
passage.
Oh my
right?
God.
Yeah. So great.
That's
And the ending
fantastic.
is a real flipperoo. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
You know, I remember seeing ads for that movie now. Glenn Close and I think Jonathan Pryce, perhaps. It was pretty recent. Did you ever see the movie?
I didn't,
Okay.
no.
Yeah. Well, now, yeah, I didn't know it was based on a book. I think I'll read the book.
Yeah.
So that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and she's written a lot of other things. I mean, she's a very accomplished writer, but I also just think that for a female writer to put this out there, there's a lot being said about, particularly in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, even through today, the modern literary landscape can sometimes look very male and very white.
Much so. Yeah.
So,
And the path has been greased by the women behind them.
yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
That was perfect for this theme.
Yeah, it's a terrific read. Yes. I really liked it.
Although it would be pretty cool to see Glenn Close in that situation.
Yeah,
I
I've
think
heard that
she
the
could-
movie's phenomenal, and a lot of
Yeah.
people that really liked the book said they liked the movie too.
Okay,
So I think
yeah.
it's, and I don't know if she won, but I remember that she was nominated
Yeah.
for a lot of awards based on
She's
that.
kind
And
of badass.
some of the book I could see playing out on the screen really well. Some of that in-depth push and pull, those conversations, some of that dialogue would play out great, I think, on a screen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a decision to make now.
Yeah.
Book or movie, or which one first.
I know. It's
But,
it's a real toss-up.
yeah. There's I don't know. It's too much right now. I
It's too
can't
much-
handle
You
it.
don't have to make a decision right now.
Okay.
Okay. We're in the dumpster in the back. We're just trying not to get burned.
Just trying to survive.
And if you're not getting burned, that's all you got to worry
That's
about.
all I'm worried about right now. Is we're
Everything
not
else
getting
is gonna fall
burned
into
at this
place.
moment.
At
Yeah.
this moment, my feet are not on fire.
I see that sliver of sky, and it's going to get bigger. Yeah.
I got my eyebrows. Okay.
Oh boy. Well, nonfiction wise, I have a book. It's a memoir. It's called Close, 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 Music, 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 Boys, Boys, Boys
Oh.
by Viv Albertine, and this is from 2014. In the late 1970s, there was a punk group that formed called The Slits, which is a fantastic name because it was an all-women punk band. Their sound was very sort of discordant. They had crazy lyrics, album covers, everything. Deeply feminist and angry, and a band that you may not have heard of, but it's been very influential for a lot of bands to come afterwards, including Nirvana. Kurt Cobain was a big fan. Sleater-Kinney, a lot of the Riot Grrrl bands, many bands have attributed a lot to the Slits. So Viv Albertine, the author of this book, she was the guitarist of the Slits. And this memoir talks about being a girl in a man's world. She grew up in London, very poor, not a lot of prospects, but she loved music, and she was especially obsessed as she got older with female musicians at the time, Patti Smith, Chrissie Hynde, that kind. The title of the book comes from what her mom said she would always hear from her. Oh, you're just talking about clothes, 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 music, 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 boys, boys, boys.
Ah.
She, Viv, drops out of art school and resigns herself to, well, my path is I'm just going to be a groupie. I love music. I'll be around the music scene. I'm going to be a groupie. She commits to that, commits hard, doesn't pull any punches from describing that in the book, which is fantastic.
That. Yeah, just owning that is in and of itself terrific.
Yes.
Yeah.
She ended up dating Mick Jones for a while from The Clash.
Oh.
So she also, while she was doing this, though, she saw punk starting to develop around this time. She loved how raw it was, how so many people, it was obvious, just got up there, didn't have a lot of musical training, and just went for it with like pure energy and just sort of guts. And she's like, you know what? I could do that. I could totally do that. So she gets a guitar. She starts teaching herself as much as possible. Along the way, she's making friends with Sid Vicious of later Sex Pistols fame, and she starts her first band with Sid. She also starts wearing a very specific aesthetic of clothes that then goes on to inspire punk fashion. Like some of the things we now attribute to punk, the clothespins and all that kind of stuff. It was her.
Oh,
it was
my
her
gosh.
starting this. Then she meets the women who will form the Slits with her. And she goes on tour as a rock musician, as women, and they get, as you might expect, all sorts of shit while they're on tour. They get shit from other musicians, mostly male, of course. They get shit from male fans, but they take that and they run with it and they kind of funnel it into their music. And there is a song of theirs that I love so much. I named one of my stories after it. And here's just a tiny snippet of some lyrics of it. It's called Typical Girls. And typical girls get upset too quickly. Typical girls can't control themselves. Typical girls are so confusing. Typical girls you can always tell. Typical girls don't think too clearly. Typical girls are unpredictable. It goes on like that
Everything you
for
hear.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. So the book, she writes about her time with the Slits. The second half of the book talks about life after music and after the band. She acts for a while. She gets married. It turns out to be not a great marriage. She gets cancer. She struggles with depression. And at some point, she starts making music on her own again. So it's a very kind of full picture of a life. Yeah. I chose it for this theme, though, because she was taking on a very male role at the time, especially in a very male sort of music. It was very much driven by men at the time. And just kind of saying F you to everybody else. And what I love so much is that she emphasizes how much she saw other musicians being like, oh, I'm not great at this, but I'm going to try. And she's like, well, if they can do that, I sure as hell can do that, which I don't think women do that enough. We don't allow ourselves to be not perfect. And she was saying, fuck that. I'm going to do this.
That's amazing.
I know.
Because I think it's criticism. You know that you're already going to be up against criticism because you're a female. And so it feels like it has to be perfect. Otherwise, you have no chance.
Right. And so I wonder, like hearing her story, how many other women disqualified themselves from trying this, from trying punk music, from trying other music, just because they didn't see themselves up there.
Yeah.
They thought they had to be perfect. And
100%.
But she was able to kind of move past that. She prioritized herself and her music above the men she was dating, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
And she blazed a trail for both male and female musicians afterwards. So it's a fantastic story of a very specific time, a very specific genre of music. Even if you're not huge into punk, I think you would enjoy this as well, because she's a good storyteller. And I mean, just, committing to being a groupie. I was like, get it.
That's
get
pretty
it, girl.
great.
Yeah.
Do it.
And then, don't worry about being perfect. Get up there. Teach yourself guitar.
Treat yourself to a guitar. Wow, that sounds good. I didn't realize that some of that stuff attributing like punk fashion and that to her. That's amazing.
I didn't either. And I knew of the Slits when I chose this book, but I didn't know a ton about them. And so I learned a lot. It was really cool.
Sounds good. I love the title. I love that she committed
close.
that.
Music. Boys. Yep.
Well, I brought an essay collection by Samantha Irby, who I have recommended before. Very early on, I recommended her We're Never Meeting in Real Life. But this one is called Wow, No Thank You. This was published...
I've seen this cover every time. Like, that's a beautiful title.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Wow. No, thank you. And it was published in March of 2020. So just at the heart of everything exploding. Terrible time for a book to come out. But because it's Samantha Irby, I mean... everyone should buy it. She's so great at self-deprecation for the purpose of making a point, and it's funny and it's relatable, and you just can't stop reading. So this one, it's kind of some new topics because she's now married and living with her wife and stepchildren in the Midwest. So a lot in her life has changed over the course of her essay collections. So this one covers marriage, friendship, adulting, like a million other things that you can relate to. But the difference for me with her as an author is I think she does such a brilliant job of putting into words what everyone's feeling, but do it in a way that makes you laugh. Like at the same time you feel seen, you're also cracking up and you're like, yeah, that's it. I just never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
One of my favorite essays that she wrote in there is basically a written mixtape. Like if I was going to make a mixtape, this is what it would be. And it's all 90s songs. Like it's from her. She's kind of telling the story of her life during that time. And so many gems that I had to go make my own playlist of those songs because then they were just playing.
Yeah.
And I had to, and it was great. Some of the ones on there and her reasoning for it is like, yeah, that's a trash song, but I loved it too. Like, so great. That was one of my favorite essays in the whole collection. There's another one too about how much decision making it takes to keep social engagements. Like I'm supposed to go to dinner tonight, and the hour by hour process of breaking down, like, am I going to go? Am I not going to go? Is it worth it?
And the panic that starts to set in, like, oh God, the time is running out. I have to make a decision.
Yes. Yeah. She talks and like what has to happen at each of those times. So terrific. I brought two quotes that I love, and that'll help explain why I picked it for this theme. The first one is, First of all, why would you ask a man anything is beyond me. And the second one, hello, 911? I've been lying awake for an hour each night, reliving a 2-second awkward experience I had in front of a casual acquaintance 3 years ago for 8 months. Which is, that's exactly why I picked
life.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's a woman who knows who she is and owning it, you know, and that doesn't mean that she's doing everything perfectly or she doesn't still struggle, but she knows who she is and she's putting it out there, and she might second guess everything, but that's what all women do.
Yes.
We're all doing our best and just hoping that we haven't screwed up too much.
Yeah. Does it say where in the Midwest she lives?
Somewhere in Michigan, I believe.
Oh,
yeah.
I was going to say.
I know.
If she was close, we could,
that would have already been done.
Yeah. We would make
You
this
already
happen.
had to bail me out. I would have showed up and be like, can you sign all my books 3 times?
She's close friends with Lindy West of
Yes.
Shrill, because I often delight in seeing exchanges or things between them on the socials.
And if you don't remember, I mentioned it before, but she got her start because she started an entire blog where she breaks down Judge Mathis episodes every day. And it is, if you haven't read it, I mean, she's like the original, hilarious blogger. If you haven't read it, it's worth it. She still does it. It's hilarious. And if you like that, you're going to love her essays because they're even better. I mean, on a whole nother level. So terrific and a delight. So, and just for the title. Wow. No, thank you.
It's just, that's 2020. That's a title for 2020. And I do remember, is there a bunny or something?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah.
Because the one on the We're Never Meeting in Real Life was that real scraggly cat that she had.
Yeah. And then there was another book, Meaty, with like a hedgehog or something.
Yeah,
right?
yep. Hedgehog or porcupine. I can't remember
I like
which
the
one.
theme that she's got going.
I know.
Yeah.
The covers are great.
So good.
And yeah, just tremendous and so relatable, and everything's hilarious. So
I guess that's one good side effect of 2020 is there's been less plans to agonize over and cancel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was wondering when I was reading that essay if I was trying to think ahead, like, is my feelings about that going to change? Like, once I have plans, is it going to feel so exciting that it's like, oh, I'm not going to have any of that dread anymore? Or have I ruined myself forever and I will never be able to actually get to the end point?
Oof, it might be a toss-up.
I know.
Because I predict maybe like, once there is potentially a sort of agreed upon, like, okay, we're feeling in the clear, we can try this again. We might be so excited for a good month or so that we'll burn ourselves out. Like, oh, just plan after plan after plan.
And then
stack that week. And then you're like, oh, dear God, how did I do this before?
This is why I didn't want to do this before. Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I have no more things to say.
Well, maybe it'll help us to weed out too and say,
Yeah.
I'm only going to do one thing a week. Okay. I already have a dinner this week. The rest of the dinners are by myself. I'm sorry.
And then we can almost start a competition. Like, which one of you am I going to choose this week?
Who's making this better?
I only got one slot, so
Better pick.
Yep.
Just saying.
I like it. Well, that sounds great.
It is. It's really, it's wonderful. It's worth it. I know she's a rare double author pick, but she's worth it.
It's fantastic. We need to sort of count up how many double author picks now we
I
have.
know. They should
We've got
get
a couple.
their own like special board or something. I don't know.
Mona Wad.
Yeah.
Got Samantha Irby. Britt Bennett.
Araminta Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Britt Bennett.
There's probably more, but
Sarah Vaughn.
oh, yeah. You've got a lot of double picks.
I do.
You fall in love with an author and you stick with them.
I do. I follow you. If I fall in love with you, I follow you. That wasn't meant to be as creepy as it sounded.
Let's clarify, not physically follow.
No, I follow. Like when a new book comes out, I am here for it and I will be on it and getting it. Not at your house. I'm not following you. I don't know where you've been or if you have COVID. I'm not following you, but
I wonder when COVID is done if you will resume your stalking type behaviors.
I mean,
like there's no excuses anymore. Like
right. Yeah. Or if I had a long enough time out that it's made me second guess some behaviors.
Oh, so many things to determine in 2021, hopefully.
So many things.
Yeah.
Going to be all kinds of new.
Well, pop culture this week, I chose a podcast. And this was actually suggested to me by one of our dear friends and listener, Maggie.
Ooh, Maggie.
Yes.
Shout out to Maggie.
Maggie,
Which, by the way, when we do that, it sounds like a made-up person.
It really does.
Sounds like we're like,
she's an actual.
let's pretend that
Nope.
this person, we're friends with the
This
person.
is an
named
actual
Maggie.
human being.
It is. I can
and we
vouch
can
for
confirm.
you, which doesn't help in this case.
I was gonna say, how am I can prove this? She's been in my house. That doesn't prove anything.
I've seen her. It doesn't prove anything. She follows us on social.
She does.
I don't know if I want to.
No, I don't want. Oh no, we're just making this worse.
I know.
But Maggie, she's a real person.
She's
we
a real.
swear.
Just believe us. She's a real person. We have friends. People tell us stuff, okay?
Maggie's gonna be like, I don't want to hear this anymore. I'm gonna
I'm
unsubscribe.
never telling you anything to do again, ever. She is out.
Oh dear. Okay, well, I'll stop talking about Maggie.
Turns out she moved, but it's fine.
So our existing actual person listener, Maggie, recommended this podcast to me specifically because she thought I might like it, and she was correct. It's called The Ballad of Billy Balls.
Oh, yes.
So the premise is this. In the late 1970s, a woman named Rebecca is an actress in New York, and she meets a musician named Billy Balls, and they fall head over heels in love. Billy Balls is not his birth name. Just,
Right.
yeah, okay. So for 7 years, they're together. They're making music, they're making art, they're living together in East Village until one day in 1982, Rebecca comes home to find their apartment. The windows are blown out. Billy's gone. He's been shot 7 times without explanation. His body he is in a hospital for 10 days. And then he's mysteriously gone, and he's taken to an anonymous burial ground that she cannot find to this day. So devastating and super weird, like very suspicious in a lot of ways. And because of that, Rebecca can't really let it go.
Yeah.
So for 34 years up to this point of this podcast, she's lived as a widow, hasn't dated anybody else. To this day, she's never been able to really say goodbye. She's never been able to figure out, like, who shot him? Why did he disappear? Like, was this a cover-up? Is there something weird going on? What's going on? So this show is trying to figure it out for her, like really digging into this case. It's a true crime podcast. It's a picture of New York City in the 70s and 80s, which is super vivid, very visceral. It's also a family story with some really deep digging into what makes family, how you can love someone and not necessarily like them. And I can't honestly say much more because by the first episode, there's a very interesting twist and kind of an incredible tie that you don't see coming that gives this so much more added meaning. So I just recommend listening to the first episode. If you're not hooked by then you won't be.
Okay.
That's all it takes. I chose it for this theme because Rebecca and Billy are just deeply in love. They're trying to change the rules through music and art, but he's become an ex of hers, and she can't let go. Like and so it lingers for so long, and there's no real sense of closure. And the devastating effect that has on so many lives, not just her own. So like I said, just go in, you'll get sucked in by the end of the first episode. And then there's each episode sort of focuses on different aspects of the case and other things. There's a number of bonus episodes. It's all done, so you can binge it to your delight. The host is Io Tillett Wright, who a fascinating person who has a memoir that I'll be reading soon. I follow Io on social media. It's really fantastic. So
Sounds great.
Thank you, Maggie, real person.
Thank you, real person Maggie. Should we start calling her that? Real person Maggie?
Hey, real person Maggie.
What's up, real person?
What's happening?
That doesn't it?
It doesn't.
It's gone so
not
far down the
making
rabbit
it better.
hole.
It's making I don't know.
I think that the fact that it's so bad proves that it's correct.
Exactly, because we can't lie very well, apparently.
It's flipped itself.
It's flipped it. You're right. Yeah.
That's what we're going to hope for. Well, I am recommending a movie this week.
Ooh.
It's called The Lie. I just watched this, but I guess it originally came out in 2018. It stars Mireille Enos and Peter Sarsgaard as the parents of a girl named Kayla, who is played by Joey King. The movie opens, and Kayla is supposed to be going to a ballet camp. And we quickly learn that her parents are divorced. They both have moved on with someone new, and they couldn't be more opposite. Like the mom, Rebecca, is this very intense, successful attorney, and Jay's a laid-back band manager. So the people they've moved on with better mirror who they are. You can kind of see right away why, it didn't work out. But they end up finding out that their daughter Kayla has been involved in a horrible crime. And so they together fall down a rabbit hole of covering it up for her. Oh. And it forces them to spend all this time together and make all these decisions together. And it's twisty and it's turny and it's intense and it's crazy. And as a parent, it made you think multiple times, would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, how far would you go to protect your child?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. I love Peter Sarsgaard. He's great. Love him.
Yeah.
And so,
everything he does.
Yeah. And this movie, it's, there's not a lot of plot in the sense that it's not like, scenes changing, action, all that kind of thing. It's just so much intensity and conversation. And there's so much unsaid all the time that is just keeps you on the edge. And I think it's terrific. It's definitely worth it. And I picked it for this theme because obviously, talk about an ex that won't leave you alone.
Shit.
Now you are accessories in a crime cover-up together. So really, you're tied forever. And I also like it because when the movie starts, you can see that Rebecca is much more in control. Like, she's got this very successful career, but she's also, you can tell, done the brunt of the parenting. And which is, a lot of times what happens. But in the movie, what I liked is that you end up seeing why they're both so needed for their child. And the ending will make you have some questions, but it's good.
So without obviously revealing what they do to cover up, would you do what they do to cover up?
I don't, Mike and I had an extensive conversation
really?
about this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, there were some moments that we were like, no, there were some better ways to do this.
Okay.
I think that at certain points it was too far gone and they were sort of too far down the path to go backwards. But there were definitely some things that you think, oh, yeah, I could see how you made that decision if you thought about what it was actually going to be like for your daughter if she was caught for this. But, we also talked about the fact, she's a minor. So then you're like, well, would there be a way to work that out, And there's no doubt, and you see that pretty early on in the movie, that this child needs some help. Like, this has gone bad. So we talked a lot about that too, about that seemed to almost be lost when they were in the panic of making these decisions, which of course it would be in a crisis time. So you kind of fall down on both sides. Like, yeah, I would, and no, I wouldn't. But
Would you go that route to cover up any crimes that I did?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hands down.
Yeah,
No problem.
Just making sure.
Yeah. All in. No worries.
I was going to say, we've gone on record multiple times saying we
Yes.
will cover up each other's crimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Maybe a better way to answer it would be that I would cover up the crime better. I don't know that they picked the best route.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always doing research for the best ways to do it in real life.
That made it sound really. I'm always doing research to see how I can get away with crimes. That's what we're going to go on record with right now. All right. I'm going to own it. Yep, sure do. I am constantly covering up crimes.
You got notebooks galore with notes.
Every person in my life has a notebook, and I play out every crime, and if they commit them, how I would help them. So that's how you know you're in.
Oh, that's good. That's how you know you're really part of the circle.
That's how you know that I'm really the godfather.
Oh, there's so many times just accidentally I think we implicate you, and especially
So
in
many
many
things.
crimes.
I just want to point out that should a crime ever occur around me and there be a dateline, they are going to use this podcast
so much.
There's going to be so many clips of me
Out of
saying, I will
context.
stalk them. I will find them. I look at true crimes.
I have
He's a real
notebooks.
person.
I have all the notebooks.
All the notebooks. I will break your legs.
Well, you know what? We've been doing this for a while now, and nothing's come back to haunt you yet.
Not
So
yet.
I say we keep going.
So keep up the good work out there, listening audience. I haven't had to do anything.
Oh, yep. We just keep doing it.
We do.
Keep making our listeners like Maggie happy. And
Who is a real person.
we know she's a real person, especially because she's married to the chef that brings us all the tasty treats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now
Now it sounds even weirder. What am I doing? Why?
real. What is wrong with us today? Oh, we do have friends. I don't know why we have to keep. People do like us.
We have proof. We brought Heath in a few episodes ago.
True.
We
That's
have at least
true.
one friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going so well.
How did it start out so great and then it's just kind of fizzled? I don't understand.
I think it was too much enthusiasm
It was.
about
We had
2020.
so much enthusiasm for the good news we got yesterday, and
it's too many highs.
it's too many highs. We don't know what to do with excitement anymore.
No, it is getting dangerous.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Ziggy the Podcat, where I'm just so excited, I'm just running around, and then I'm going to crash real
I just
soon.
feel like I'm in 5th grade and I'm high on pixie sticks. I just can't handle it.
And we're going to crash, but before then, we're going to say some weird stuff because.
But before that, we're going to say some weird stuff.
Which has been this episode.
Which is like every 5th grade sleepover. Why did you say that? Oh, well. I feel like it's a weird time to say we'll be back next week. Because
You want to hear more weird stuff?
Yeah.
We got it every week.
we do. In the meantime, I guess you could participate in some. That was a terrible transition.
There's no saving this. So I'm just going to say happy reading. I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.